Sony's Madameweb, now in theaters. Yep, we're going to talk about it. Welcome back, Geek Variants. Today we're talking about Madameweb. This movie just released yesterday, and I've been up all night recording. It's like early in the morning for me right now. And yeah, the preliminary reviews were not great. This was sitting at around a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes as of the time of me, looking at the reviews before I went to go see the movie. And then after I saw the movie, still sitting at 15%, and a lot more reviews have come in. So that's not boding well for this particular outing with Sony's universe. So, honestly, here's my spoiler-free opinion before I really get started to spoilers. This movie goes with the average superhero tropes. All the stuff is pretty standard. You got the unwilling protagonist who doesn't care about anything, who ends up, being involved in a situation she don't want nothing to do with, but because the responsibility has been placed upon her, she has to answer the calling and be that superhero that the world needs her to be at that point in time. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, the villain is watered down. Like, he's not anything worth looking at as far as I'm concerned. I say again, he is, all the dialogue of the movie is lacking. Like, nothing stands out. Nothing is really like, these hard-hitting scenes. They even go so far as to change up a very particular line, which I'll get to later, just to flip-flop it, just to try to make it sound different or more impactful, I guess, without making us hear the same thing over and over again, and it still doesn't do it. I mean, the fight scenes are boring and unimaginative. Like, it's just, this hurts to watch. Like, as far as we've come with making these movies, this movie takes place in 2003, and it feels like it was made in 2003, like when superhero movies were, becoming, something, and actually, starting to, get some traction, because you got Spider-Man 1 that was released at that time, and, with Tobey Maguire, and they're trying to build up, these Marvel movies to something, and it just did not take. Like, the main villain of this movie was the writers, the casting directors, the producers, all of them. Like, they should not be doing whatever this is ever again. They need to fix this. They already had issues because some of the same people who worked on Morbius worked on this. No, never again. Like, it's that bad. So basically, this is where the spoilers and stuff come in. So, appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, if you don't mind, because I want to hear your comments about all this stuff when I get through running through this. So basically, the movie starts off in 1973. You got Constance, which is Cassie Webb's mother, going through the jungles looking for these particular spiders for some reason. She is pregnant, probably about 9 months or so pregnant with it, because she wants to find these spiders for some odd reason. So she's traipsing through the jungle, and Ezekiel is her protector. He's the one who's, I guess, kind of guiding her and all that kind of stuff, because he's been looking for the spiders too, unbeknownst to her as to his reasoning why. He just wants to find them. All right. She randomly finds a spider while off screen, and basically he's like, yo, that's what I've been looking for too. Shoots everybody, including her, and then runs off into the jungle. That's it. No, not a care in the world. Like, he got what he wanted. He's after. Here's my first issue. You got losaranas, the spider people, who have been, protecting, and helping people in danger and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like their thing. They descend when she's in trouble to come help her and get her to like a chamber to kind of figure out what's going on with her. Nobody gives two craps about Ezekiel. This man just ran off with one of the rarest spiders in the world, that apparently one of your spiders, and no one gives chase. No one goes to see what he's doing or what he's got. They just see her shot and like, we're going to take care of her. And, one person picks her up and then hops through to go take her where they need to take her. What are the other ones doing? Now you got like 10 guys standing around the cave looking over her, and nobody cares that this guy just stole one of these, apparently, spiders with these healing properties and all sort of kind of stuff. But I digress. It is. So that was one of the first things. It just didn't make any sense to me. Basically, they end up having her bit by the spider. As soon as she's bit by the spider, she immediately gives birth to a looks like a healthy baby girl, and she dies. Like before she can even touch her baby, I guess she dies. And that's it. And he's just like, he promises her in the process of all this going on that she'll need answers one day, and when she needs those answers, she'll be able to come back here and get those answers. I'll be here waiting for her. And that's it. Fast forward to 2003. Now we're in here. Cassie is 30 years old, running around as a paramedic for the FDNY, and she is doing her best to make everything work. She is a survivor. She's been through the foster system, the orphans, so she's just kind of got that one-track mind of, I got to survive. I'm not getting too attached to things, outside of her, whatever her circle is. Like her circle is very small. We see that when they end up saving a person and the kid tries to give her a picture, like, thanks for saving my mom. She's like, I don't know what to do with this. Is that I can't even fold it. What am I supposed to do with it? Like literally, it's a piece of paper. Fold it and put it in your pocket and move on. And Ben even tells her, Ben even tells her, just put it in your pocket and move on. Like, you can't fold a piece of paper. Like, again, little things that just annoy me. I'm going to nitpick, so bear with me. But the fact is that Ben Parker is mentioned. Ben Parker is her partner. He is a paramedic with her. They actually mention his army background because those of you who don't know, Ben Parker actually trained in the army as military police. So that's actually part of his story and stuff when he ends up eventually falling in love with May. One of the guys that she was in love with, she was like a criminal or something like that. So him being military police, just kind of, he pointed out to her that he wasn't a bad guy. So even when he got snatched up, he was there for her, and that's kind of how their kind of thing went on. So the fact that Ben Parker is here, we got a young Ben Parker, and he is working with her as a paramedic, which is absolutely fantastic as far as, cool. Okay, here's the Spider-Man connection, we were waiting for. As they go through this, she just kind of goes through doing whatever she's to do. She has a couple random encounters with a couple random kids as they go through. These kids are the characters that become the Spider Women that we've seen in the trailer. So that she flips off one that flips her off on a skateboard as she's driving the ambulance. One is the stepdaughter of the patient that she brought in the hospital. Another one is in her apartment building. And they're all kind of on their own in each of these instances. Nobody knows each other, but she has an interaction. I won't say an interaction. She sees each of them, so they're in the same scene for a quick moment, and that's just kind of what it is. As she gets upstairs, she kind of has that theme of strays need to stick together, and she's talking to a cat at this point in time. So keep that in mind. That part right there is important, I guess, for her. Strays need to stick together, because the next day, Cassie gets on a call, and a completely avoidable situation where she put herself in, she basically ends up falling into the water and goes under cardiac arrest. At some point after just falling in the water, she goes under cardiac arrest, and her powers start to awaken. She starts to get that whole I can see the future thing, and basically we get kind of a foreshadowing of what the future is for the movie. We see a couple different things and stuff that we see later on in the movie. As she basically gets revived by her partner. She's like, I'm here. We start getting where she has these repeat occurrences where, again, she's kind of seeing things that happen, and then it gets rewound, and it's like, okay, we already know what's going to happen now, and now she's living through it in real time, and she's like, no, we've already done this, blah, 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 whatever. So think Nicolas Cage from the movie Next, more or less, that's what's going on. So she's doing her thing. On the other side of town, or wherever else Ezekiel is, he's not really aged at all. He basically, is haunted by dreams of his death from these three Spider Women. He ends up seducing some agent from some agency to get some kind of super high tech, stuff that allows him to look into traffic cameras and surveillance and all this kind of stuff, like, super high speed, low drag type stuff. And he has a techie that does all this stuff for him in his living room. So she's got what looks to be honestly a standard PC setup for any serious gamer. It's like couple monitors, so they're probably like anywhere between 4 and 6 monitors and blah 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 doing whatever. So she's able to take what he saw in his dream, I guess whatever he said, I guess he described, and put them into a computer with their masks and everything in full description, and then she basically removes the mask and then de-ages them by about 10 years to give them some range, because it's supposed to happen in the future, because it's shown that he has white hair and all kinds of stuff. And keep in mind, it's been 30 years. He hasn't aged a day, so to speak, maybe a couple grays. So he looks very good for 30 years later. And then even in the premonition, so add 10 years, he's got a full head of white hair, and he's jumping on the buildings trying to fight and deal with them. So it's like, okay, got it. She just de-ages them, and bam, she automatically knows what they look like. This is who they are. We can just figure this out. So let's take a step back for a second. If this whole thing is possible, so many superheroes could be instantly outed for some of the, like Spider-Man wears a full coverage mask, so he's not going to be outed like that fast. Whereas a lot of the female characters, which are like they're giving some of these like half masks, so that everything's out with that freaking, or it's just an eyepiece. Like that's the whole thing that kind of always bugged me about other characters and stuff, where they just have the eyes. And it's like, I can still see you. I still know who you are. But, nobody else knows who it is just by covering eyes. The same thing. It's the Clark Kent kind of thing. It's like, if I put on glasses, you don't know who I am anymore. Same thing. It doesn't make sense. It bugs me. I got straight hairs and stuff. So that just kind of bugged me. But eventually, she has these visions of these girls, and she's got to go to a point where she saves them, because Ezekiel is now hunting for her. This is where the cat and mouse game begins. Ezekiel's not hunting them down. She has all the visions, and she kind of gets them to safety. And now she's listed as more or less, once she gets them out, she's listed as a kidnapper. They end up getting in the cab and running away. And, Ezekiel done fought off in his spider suit, done fought off all these cops, probably about 8 cops on the platform and like another 4 or 5 coming down the platform. He fought all these cops, but they only know, like literally on the radio, within not even 5 minutes of them getting in the cab, on the radio, these 3 girls have been abducted. Cassie's the kidnapper, so on and so forth. What are they going to do? No mention of the spider guy whatsoever. No mention of this guy climbing on walls and just beating up a bunch of cops. She's the kidnapper. That's it. Okay, cool. We'll run it. Okay. In the process of this, she eventually tells the girls that, hey, I got to go figure out what's going on. Basically, she leaves them on their own, which is classic story trope. They go get into some stuff because, again, teenagers don't listen. People don't know how to lay low. People don't stay still. Everybody's always got to get into something when they're told to, hey, chill out. We don't want them to come looking for you. Oh, well, we're going to go to this diner anyway. Fast forward, basically, he finds them. She's got to come rescue them and get them out of there. In the process of that, she gets a little bit of poison, so she ends up having to teach the kids CPR in case they get poisoned. This is how you can save somebody who goes into cardiac arrest, because that's what the poison will do, is put you into cardiac arrest. So this is how you save them. You got to do CPR. Now, there's a lot more stuff involved in this, but that's the rough gist of it. Now, everything that has happened up until this point has literally just been him chasing them. So she decides to go get answers. And she goes back to her mom's book and everything she has in a little trunk. And is like, I got to go to Peru. Stay safe. I'm going to hook y'all up with Ben. Ben, hang on to them for the time being. We, of course, have seen Ben now with Mary. Mary is pregnant. We know who she's pregnant with. And everything's just kind of on standby at this point for them. She goes, Cassie goes to Peru to go figure out what's going on. She manages to walk right into the jungle. She has little maps, I guess, to get right where she needs to be, and she finds, her savior, who was there for her. In the process of this, we get a whole, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. You need to know what's going on. Do you trust me? And then he gives her that Doctor Strange push, that the ancient one, bam, knock Doctor Strange into his little astral form. Same exact stuff. Bam, push, her astral form falls out her body. into the water, and she starts to experience things. And basically, she gets to heal her trauma. This is what it is. Heals her trauma because she actually talked to her mother and find out what's going on. Why did her mom go to the jungle and basically put her in the situation she's in now? Because she had some kind of, defect, some kind of birth defect that nobody could do anything about. So she's going to go find the answers on her own. So she went to go find this rare spider to try and cure the birth defect. I was saying, thanks, Mom. Sorry I harbored all this ill will against you. All this done in a time span of about 5 minutes. And, she's back feeling better. The thing is, how fast does that venom work? Because spider bit her and she was born like 30 seconds later. So whatever issue she was having in the womb, like that stuff was fixed almost instantaneously as soon as she was bit. I don't think the water had nothing to do with it. She was floating in, all that stuff. No, she got bit. She was good to go. She was born a healthy baby girl, no issues whatsoever, from what we could see. Movie magic at its finest. So eventually she, her powers they're already been awakened from earlier. So now they're kind of heightened a bit, and she gets some kind of motivation now to go back and kind of take care of the girls. And we get this line. This is the line that kind of bugged me earlier. You already know with great power comes great responsibility. Are you expecting to hear the line? I was trying to see if they were going to slide it in some type of way. They sure enough did. They just did it backwards. When you take on the responsibility, great power will come. This is the line that's given by the head of the losaranas. Like, this is what he said to her that kind of sparked her whole thing. And it was like, really? This is where we're going with it? All right, cool, whatever. Final confrontation time. She's got to head back to New York. Now, keep in mind, she is able to move through New York. She stole a cab to get the girls out of there. She took the plates off the cab. She's able to drive this cab around, drive to the airport, get on a plane to Peru, come back, still have access to that same car, and drive back to Ben Parker's house to go get the girls, since that's where she left them with no trace whatsoever. Ezekiel has this high-tech technology and has already run into her, seen her face, tried to poison her and stuff, and he's not able to search her. Like, all the other girls, their houses are being watched, their families are being watched, all this other stuff is going on. And even with one of the girls, Anya, she lives in the same building as Cassie. And not once, and Cassie has been home to go get the box of good stuff. Not once has anybody decided to check for her any time. Like, not at all. Okay, this is the one that's keeping you from the 3 girls that you need to kill to preserve your life, and you don't look for her at all. Fantastic storytelling. So either way, she decides that she has the premonition that, oh, they're in trouble. I gotta save them. I gotta get to them wherever. Mary's water done broke, so Ben decides to take the girls to the hospital with Mary to go get checked out. I was like, leave the girls at home. They're safe there. No one has come looking for them there, so to speak, even though, they should all be watched and stuff. Because, again, Cassie should be being watched and all of her friends, which would include Ben. And if you're watching Ben, then you would have found the girls, and then you would have been able to go get the girls, and then Cassie would have been in Peru while this happened. The movie would have been over. But I digress. Ben takes the girls and Mary, to the hospital because the ambulance is not going to get there in time. But shortly after they left, the ambulance pulls up. When Cassie pulls up, ambulance pulls up. Cassie's still in the ambulance to go get them, and she has this, she got these crazy driver skills from earlier in the movie, and she ends up driving through some big, building off a cliff smacking into Ezekiel as he's about to kill everybody with a bomb, and saves everybody. Great. Mary and Ben, you're okay now. You can go to the hospital. I got the girls. Now they split up. They decided to go to an abandoned fireworks factory. This is the premonition that she had to get to the abandoned fireworks factory. Absolutely outstanding. After all this rigmarole, basically, we get there to this factory because Mike Epps is in the movie. Mike Epps is killed at this abandoned factory in a crash that was like it was going about 10 miles an hour, which he probably should have. He maybe would have had a broken arm if anything, but no, he dies from this, which is very traumatic for her. But no, they go back to this place and set off flares and a random smoke bomb inside the EMT bag. don't know why, set off all these flares to set off these fireworks to basically trap themselves inside the place while they're looking for rescue from the police on the roof. And of course, the police don't make it. They stuff gets blown up, and now they've got to face off with Ezekiel, and they don't know what to do. They all try to attack Ezekiel separately, of course, and he puts each of them in a life-threatening position, except for Cassie, and he's kind of walking Cassie down. Now, your whole purpose is to kill these girls. Why are you now hyper-focused on Cassie at this point? They're all dangling by their fingertips, about to fall into fire and everything else. He completely ignores them and then walks down Cassie for some reason. Cassie decides to use her powers because she is told that she can eventually use her powers to be in multiple places at once. So she creates apparitions of herself to grab up all the girls, physically help them up and get them to safety. And she has time to do this before Ezekiel decides to attack her and then knock her apparitions back into her, and then proceeds to walk her down again, where eventually some signs blow up, some stuff falls down. He gets trapped between two steel beams. This is Ezekiel. Ezekiel can lift about 7 tons at minimum. His powers are below Spider-Man's as far as level, because again, it's a whole true totem thing, which we'll get into with the comics and stuff later. But he can lift several tons, and he cannot lift these 2 steel beams off of him. Basically, he ends up falling. He smacks his head on the concrete. Then the building falls on top of him in the process, and he's, again, bleeding out the head, and that's supposedly the end of him. In the process, Cassie falls off into the water again. Stray fireworks hits her in the eyes. She has another little vision moment, and the girls basically end up saving her. The CPR they learned earlier, they get her back to life. She's good to go, but she's now blinded. So now they're in the hospital. Mary's in another room, having delivered a healthy baby boy who is never referred to as Peter at all. And then Cassie is in the room. She pretty much adopts the girls, says, "Are these immediate family?" "Yep, these are my family." She takes them. They talk about how Ben's happy to be an uncle, and Cassie says something to the tone of, "Well, he's happy now, but it's going to be quite difficult later on," which leads us to believe that she can now see further into instead of just seeing a few minutes ahead, she can now see further into now she is now seeing several years into the future. This is like at least, 10 years into the future, roughly. Again, I'm speculating here. 10 years into the future, because I can't remember the exact age where Peter went to go live with Ben, but several years into the future, and sees everything that's going on. So her powers have now expanded. And the entire time, only time we got to see the Spider Women in action was in dreams and premonitions. When they went to go kill Ezekiel in his dream, that's the only time we got to see the Spider Women in action. When Cassie says, she has this whole like, "Hey, I can now see things more clearly now. I can see a lot better," and stuff like that. She eventually has a scene where she's in full spider gear, and she has the 3 of them in full spider gear, and they just kind of have a moment, and then scene cuts. And that's it. End of the movie. No extra cutscene, no nothing. So, girls never had powers throughout any of the movie. All right, they never got any powers. The spider that Ezekiel had took was still in his house with the little tech girl, who I don't think I ever got a name for. But the spider is still there in the house as far as I know. Ezekiel is now dead. We know how Marvel movies work. He's dead. I see him on the ground bleeding outside his head, but is he actually dead? I don't know. Unless somebody disintegrates somebody, we know. So he's now dead, and now we got the future of the Spider-Verse, so to speak, kind of coming to fruition. Like we'll see in roughly about 10 years, give or take. Apparently these girls will become, Spider Women in their own right, and become each of their corresponding Spider Women. That's it. I'm not happy with this movie at all. Like, I have no idea where they were trying to go. It's like they're trying to put together a puzzle, and they were making up pieces as they go along. That's all it is. Like, no one has the final picture in mind of what the puzzle should be, what it should look like. You got to think, like, Avengers Endgame was a big puzzle, so that, and each movie was a piece that was put in to build the final picture, and this is what we see. We get none of that with Sony. I have no idea what they're trying to do. They got a great ticket there with Miles. They're doing great with the animated universe. You can literally leave Peter Parker to his devices with the MCU and let them do what they're doing with the MCU. If you want to finish producing the Spider-Man movies, okay, fine, run it. You can run the solo ones with you and then have them doing the MCU stuff. Cool, run this with that. But you can literally start bringing Miles into the picture. The fact is, you even had Andrew Garfield talk about it. You can start bringing that into the picture. Like, there's so many things you do, and I'm gonna get into that in probably a later video. But yeah, this was not good. This was one of the worst things I've seen. It's right up there with Morbius. Like, I can't stand this movie, and it has no place. Like, they should literally just delete this thing. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. By all means, what do you think should have happened in the comments? Tell me, what do you think their next move should be from here? What would you have changed in the movie? What character would you have brought in? What would you have made a Spider-Man movie about, as opposed to this? Because right now, none of this was needed. You could have brought Madam Web in an entirely different fashion and still had her be effective as a character. But again, I'm just gonna get riled up. So hey, that's all I got for this. Again, I want to hear from you in the comments. Again, thank you guys for joining in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.